Your winning streak has ended. Your luck has run out. Violating the law is a losing proposition, and you can bet on that.
The warning slammed into the sports world like a bullet. FBI raids revealed the largest gambling scandal in NBA history in a matter of hours. One thing, however, became evident as an unidentified force converted those raids into a massacre. There was no meaningful game on the court. The procedure that made all the difference. 11 states' worth of coordinated federal agents moved silently in the early hours of the morning. One of the biggest gambling investigations in contemporary sports history started as a small whisper about abnormalities in sports betting. One that implicates La Cosa Nostra members, as well as present NBA players and coaches. FBI Director Kash Patel claims that
this is an illegal gambling operation and sports rigging operation that spanned the course of years. The FBI led a coordinated takedown across 11 states to arrest over 30 individuals today responsible for this case, which is very much ongoing. Not only did we crack into the fraud that these perpetrators committed on the grand stage of the NBA, but we also entered and executed a system of justice against La Cosa Nostra to include the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchesi crime families.
For over 4 years, the case had been steadily progressing in secret. It was referred as internally as Operation Royal Flush, a collaborative effort including the NYPD's Joint Organized Crime Task Force, Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, and the FBI. Agents made 34 simultaneous arrests that morning as FBI convoys moved into residential areas from New York to Las Vegas. Among the identities of those arrested were both well-known NBA players and mafia members. The Miami Heat's Terry Rozier, former Cleveland Cavaliers guard turned coach Damon Jones, and Portland Trail Blazers head coach and Hall of Famer Shanta Billups were among those arrested. A wall of agency flags stood on either side of Associate Director Christopher Rea as he took the platform at the New York field office.
Today, as you've heard, our office conducted a massive nationwide takedown from 2 indictments of 34 defendants for their alleged involvement in 2 separate illegal poker and sports betting schemes.
It was a historic indictment. 2 separate investigations into related operations. The first, Operation Nothing But Bet, revealed crooked prop bets directly associated with NBA players, as well as insider betting. The second, Operation Zen Diagram, exposed a national poker ring that used technology connected to the mafia to secretly control card games. The indictment claims that throughout the years, the illicit gambling syndicate embezzled tens of millions of dollars, directing the proceeds into organized crime networks with ties to the ancient Italian 5 families. Even seasoned investigators were taken aback by the scheme's brilliance. According to one official, the matter is the NBA's insider trading debacle. The sports world gasped at the findings. Authorities claimed that certain NBA players placed coordinated wagers through middlemen prior to games, starting by using confidential information ranging from locker room injuries to pre-game strategy. One instance that would come to symbolize the affair was described by NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch.
One example occurred on March 23, 2023, in Charlotte. Terry Rozier, an NBA player now with the Miami Heat, but at the time playing for the Hornets, allegedly let others close to him know that he planned to leave the game early with a supposed injury. Using that information, members of the group placed more than $200,000 in wagers on his under statistics. Rozier exited the game after just 9 minutes, and those bets paid out, generating tens of thousands of dollars in profit.
According to Tisch, the group counted their money once it was eventually delivered to Rozier's house. Even while the poker network and the betting ring operated on a smaller scale, they were both distinguished by technology-assisted manipulation. To guarantee results that benefited insiders, covert shuffling mechanisms, barcode decks, and even X-ray poker tables were used. Prosecutors described how Billups and Damon Jones served as the operation's face cards, exploiting their notoriety to entice affluent investors, the so-called fish, into the trap in an NBC News investigation. These nights of poker were anything but fair, even though their targets were unaware of it. cards, and tables had been altered to include hidden scanners and optical codes that were not visible to the human eye. One of the shuffling machines had a micro camera attached to a mobile device when it was disassembled. X-ray sensors that fed real-time data to operators in a back room were concealed within the felt of the tables. The outcomes were disastrous. In one session, one player lost $1.8 million. The total losses, as verified by HSI Director Ricky Patel and court documents, surpassed $7 million. The scheme has a worldwide scope. Before returning to U.S. institutions under the pretext of consultancy income, the funds passed through shell accounts in Hong Kong, the Cayman Islands, and Cyprus. The NBA first brushed off the early claims as conjecture, but after the FBI verified that they had made direct contact with the league, the hush was broken. Although it declined to comment on individual defendants, the NBA later admitted its cooperation with investigators. The arrests that morning marked the beginning of a storm. Federal booking offices in 9 states were processing a list of names that resembled a collision between the worlds of organized crime and professional basketball within hours of the coordinated arrests. Online forums erupted in shock as cable networks broadcast live updates. Assistant Director Christopher Ria at FBI headquarters in New York called the takedown a cultural and criminal reckoning. The evidence showed a complex network of financial laundering that extended from offshore accounts and sham corporations to poker tables. Money traces through the garment sector of Manhattan, a front firm in Atlantic City, and a shadow casino in the Hamptons that went by the code name Lava were all discovered by agents. The FBI's operations arm has direct ties to the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese families of the New York Mafia, according to investigative sources referenced in the agency's public statement. This validated an unsettling reality. Through influenced networks and gambling technology that were previously believed to be impregnable, the underworld of organized crime has infiltrated the professional sports industry. Agents found that the syndicate had created encrypted betting websites, frequently posing as platforms for fantasy sports. These methods were utilized to track manipulated results and transfer profits beneath the surface. One law enforcement official pointed out that the scam's inventiveness went beyond simple deception. It was in the way that lawful technology was turned into a weapon. The operations devices were modified to send data via covert frequencies while still looking like commercially available poker equipment. Sal Pacenti, a casino security analyst, provided an in-depth analysis of the apparatus and illustrated the specific technology employed in the operation. According to reports, the suspects rigged shuffle machines, utilized specialized glasses and contact lenses that showed invisible markings on cards, and even an X-ray poker table that allowed them to see through the felt in order to circumvent the system. Additionally, they possessed an analyzer, a gadget that looked like a cell phone, but actually featured a hidden camera that could forecast the winning hand regardless of how the cards were shuffled. Investigators came to the conclusion that the design of the plan could only have been created with highly skilled technical assistance, indicating cooperation from cybercriminals and perhaps former casino technicians. Sports enthusiasts took to social media to express their amazement at the revelations, labeling it the worst day in NBA history. Terry Rozier, Damon Jones, and Shanta Billups had all hired attorneys by midday. Billups looked solemn and declined to remark as reporters gathered outside the U.S. District Court in Brooklyn. On the other hand, Rozier's lawyer made an early statement, claiming that investigators had already cleared his client. In a succinct statement, the NBA acknowledged its cooperation with law authorities but declined to further. Although the league's Internal Integrity Division has long kept a close eye on any anomalies related to gambling, the issue had never been this widely known. Officials acknowledged in private that organized crime in athletics had combined to cause what one investigator described as a crisis of professional basketball's credibility. At least 2 continuing investigations into possible coordination between illicit offshore bookies and sports data businesses have been revealed by the Department of Justice. When newscasts showed footage of Billups, Rozier, and Jones in handcuffs, the public's interest turned to indignation. How multimillionaire athletes could be lured into illegal activities was a topic raised by commentators. Experts argued that influence and addiction were the cause. Athletes' gambling problem, which is frequently concealed beneath their locker room bluster, has long gone unreported. Others interpreted it as avarice or a misplaced faith in dishonest middlemen who passed off danger as opportunity. But it was handled differently by the FBI. They saw it as systemic, a blending of organized crime and celebrity influence that made it difficult to distinguish between legitimate gambling and illegal manipulation. The arrest sparked rumors of a much deeper web that extended beyond poker clubs and betting applications into legal financial systems, despite the federal government's plea on calm. Later, leaked records showed that unrelated crimes involving cryptocurrencies, shell corporations, and even political contributions employed the same launderers. The consequences of the controversy were immediate. Sponsors withdrew from continuing agreements. A number of NBA teams discreetly examined their player surveillance protocols, and social media partners pulled away. There was a breakdown in morale within the changing rooms. Co-workers refrained from bringing up the topic. Negotiations for damage control were hurried by the agents. The symbolism was harsh for the general people. In a single sweep, 5 or more well-known careers effectively ended. Still, there were unanswered questions. Why was the disclosure made now if the FBI had been working within the mafia's gambling enterprises for years? What was the extent of the hidden empire's connection between organized crime and professional athletes? After the arrest, the days passed like a slow-motion breakdown. Unsealed court filings in the Eastern District of New York started to describe what seemed to be a much more extensive network than had been initially revealed. A private gambling establishment that operated under several shell entities and was registered with sports consultancy firms was mentioned in the indictments. It appeared to be real on paper. Actually, it was a focal point of the whole operation, a high-security subterranean casino that had been disguising itself as an analytics lab and player rehabilitation center. The facility was designated as Site Alpha by internal FBI designations. It was described by investigators as a cross between a computer operations center and a gaming lounge. Under the guise of seclusion and exclusivity, the venue held high-stakes matches for athletes, coaches, and wealthy investors. Millions of illegal monies were able to flow covertly into professional sports accounts, thanks to the casino's profits being channeled through consultancy retainers and performance analytic services, according to investigators quoted in FBI public remarks. It was a shocking realization. In a real, physical setting supported by organized crime, the NBA's reputation for ethics had clashed with gambling, the most lucrative vice in the criminal underground. Homeland Security Special Agent Ricky Patel's evidence supported the discovery even further.
Agents and investigators dedicated countless hours and sleepless nights in identifying the criminal network, dissecting communications and patterns, and following the money with precision. We built a case, piece by piece, and what we discovered was a sprawling criminal enterprise that utilized cutting-edge technology and various methods of deception to dupe unsuspecting gamblers into paying up so that these defendants could cash in.